All right. Hello, 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 and welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Let's make sure we're rocking and rolling on all platforms. There we go. Good deal. Fantastic. All right, we look good. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my stream. If this is your first time on my stream, my name is Aaron Mashbitz. I am the host of the Something for Everybody podcast, and most of the things I talk about are mindset, mental health, and personal development related, whether on a stream or on my podcast. So thanks for joining me. Tonight, we are going to react to two separate videos, one being from Mark Manson, which is about life being short and how not to waste it. I've never seen the video, so I'm going to learn from Mark and live react and, add my commentary to that video. And then there's an old clip from Dr. Jordan Peterson where he was on an episode of Modern Wisdom. I'm not sure which episode of Modern Wisdom it was, maybe like their second or third conversation together with Chris and Dr. Jordan Peterson. But I watched the episode when it got released. But this is a clip about how men need to become more dangerous. So I found that to be interesting. So I want to rewatch that clip because maybe I forgot some information that's valuable. So we're going to watch both of those, react, add some commentary. And yes, I have a dip in. That's why I'm spitting in a cup. Excuse me, it's a bad habit. But we're going to rock and roll with our very first video. Again, thanks for being here. If you are watching on any platform, please do subscribe or follow. And make sure you check out my podcast, which is called Something for Everybody on all major podcast platforms. So let's share the screen and let's get after it for our first video.
You have far less time than you think you do. Let's assume that you live until 80. That means you spend 27 years sleeping, leaving you 53 years to actually do stuff. Now, 3 of those years are spent on school, 11 are spent working, 5 years are spent commuting or stuck in traffic, 6 years are spent cooking and eating, 3 years are spent on personal care and household chores, 4 years running errands and doing administrative bullshit, and approximately 1 year of your life will be spent sick in bed. 1 year will be spent on the fucking toilet. 3 years are spent being an infant or toddler. And what's left? Less than 15 years of your adult life is actually free for you to use how you please. A life well lived is time well spent.
A life well lived is time well spent. Time well spent requires knowing what is worth spending it on. 15 years, he says, in your adult life, you have time to spend on the things that are most important. And so that's a really important subject to start thinking about. What is most important in your life? What are the values you want to live by? What do you actually want out of this world? What do you consider a success? Who's worth spending time with? What is worth spending time doing on? You're never going to get any clarity on these questions if you don't actually ask the questions and actually sit with them for a little bit. Because again, your direction is going to be more important than your speed. There's going to be certain parts of your life where speed is important, where you got to sprint to do this, where you got to get to action. But really, it's always going to be about the journey, about the target. And so I think that's most important, right? We're never going to arrive at some sort of happiness, but we are going to endlessly evolve as we continue to improve and grow and live our life. And I think that's really, really important. And I learned the preciousness of life after I lost my big sister Rachel. And when you lose someone you love, life punches you right in the fucking face and says, "Shit, this is ending. This could end at any moment. Life is precious. Life is valuable, and so why not spend as much time doing the things that we love with the people we love, pursuing things that make us better, that make us feel alive. And of course, not all of our life can be that way. There are things that we just have to do. Like I just got done doing the dishes. Do I love doing the dishes? No, but it's part of being in a fulfilling marriage is sharing those roles. And so of course, there's going to be things that we have to do or need to do. But how can we prioritize stuff that we really actually want to do and makes us fulfilled and actually makes our life better? So let's see what Mark has to say.
Time well spent requires knowing what is worth spending it on. This sounds so simple, yet it is actually much harder than it seems. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you take a new job that pays you 15% more, but it's an extra 30 minutes of a commute time. extra 15% pay won't change your happiness much, but an extra hour per day in the car or on the subway, that adds up to 250 hours a year, or approximately 10 extra days of your life lost every single year to that job. Or let's say you save up to buy a larger house. In that larger house, you now need more furniture, more maintenance, more repairs, more time taking care of the lawn, and more money for insurance. The extra space has now cost you approximately 20 extra hours per year for something that you're actually paying more for and probably using the same amount. Or here's one that most people don't think about very often. Everyone is constantly worried about how to meet someone quick when they're single, but what about staying in a relationship way too long when you should break up? People will complain about having to go on dates for months, but those are the same people who will stay in a terrible relationship for years. We optimize our lives for everything except for time. Yet time is actually the only thing that matters. Warren Buffett is 95 years old and worth $146 billion. But let me ask you this. How much money do you think he would spend if he got to be 20 years old again? He would probably spend all 146 billion. That's because the only real scarcity in life is time.
The only real scarcity in life is time. And how you spend that time is the most important thing in this world. Again, like I stated, of course, there will be things in life that you don't want to do that you simply have to do. Of course. But your energy is a finite resource and your time is a finite resource. So, what can you do to maximize the time you have on this earth? Because, like I said, it's precious and the last time could be the last time. You don't know if you're going to wake up the next morning and that's not some like somber sort of black cloud looming over your head. That's just like the reality of the situation. Death is coming for all of us and everyone that you know. And so when you're with that person for the next time and having lunch with them, be fucking present. You don't know when the next time you're going to see them are. You don't know if the last time could be the last time. You just do not know. So every day that we wake up is an absolute fucking miracle. It's a miracle to be alive. And yes, of course, life comes with really hard moments and challenges and pain and setback. And all of these things are absolutely 100% true. But they also make up sort of the beauty of life, that we can enjoy all of this stuff even more because we went through the struggle and the hardship and the setbacks. That I think is unbelievably valuable and important to truly actually understand and grasp. So here we go.
Scarcity of everything else is merely a function of the scarcity of time. The money you make is ultimately defined by the value of your time. Your health is largely dictated by how much time you've been alive and how you've treated your body during that time. Skill and talent is primarily a function of time. Wisdom and education is primarily a function of time. Even your relationships are reflections of the aggregated quality of shared experience across, you guessed it, time. Time is the most valuable asset because it's the only asset we actually have. In many ways, this is all wisdom really is, an understanding of time. A young person will squander loads of time to get a photo with a bunch of hot girls on a boat and impress his friends with his bitchin' ass jet ski, whereas an older person recognizes that these things are probably a waste of time. That's what makes them wise. And why does the older person probably know this? Because they've spent more time being alive. So we should agree.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that some things are learned only through experience, right? There was moments in my life where I just wanted to chase women and chase money and chase fame and chase attention. That's simply one of the reasons why, if I'm honest with myself, why I became a professional wrestler, because I wanted those things. I wanted to be cool. I wanted attention. I wanted people to like me. I wanted to, quote unquote, get girls or be seen as cool. And maybe it was a waste of time. Maybe it wasn't. But you don't learn really that through actually, you have to experience some things. Yeah, you can learn stuff from other people through narrative, through story, but really those sort of those big lessons, those life lessons are only learned through actual time and through experiencing things and realizing, oh, I don't actually want that thing. If I'm honest with myself, I don't actually want to do those things. I want this. I want a quality of life. I want to take care of myself. I want to do things that matter to me. I want to spend more time with people that matter to me. That's really the essence of life. And that's why I break my life into three parts. It's energy, work, and love. Energy being the most important. If I want to spend quality time doing stuff, I have to have my energy right. And the only way I can get my energy right is if I focus on my health of eating well, moving well, sleeping well, and thinking well. And then through that, I have the energy to really put forth my best effort into love, into being a great husband, into being a great father. And then I have enough energy then to switch off my love and go into work and give my best effort into the work that matters most to me. And I can do the same thing with love. And all of that stuff is based on my energy. And all of that stuff is really based on the time I allocate towards those things.
That the quality of your life is dictated by the quality of your time. And the quality of your time is dictated by what you choose to spend your time doing. Not how much money it's making you, or not how many heated car seats you have, or how awesome your Instagram photos look. There is something innately valuable to some uses of time over others. But how do we know what those valuable things are? Well, the answer to this comes from an interesting place. A modern philosopher who was taken away way too soon. Ernest Becker was a professor at UCSF in the 1950s. Now, he had this weird interdisciplinary study of Zen Buddhism and Freudian psychology.
Also, I would like to know if you guys think this video from Mark Manson is like a little overproduced. Like there is a graphic and something on the screen almost every second of the video, and it's less just like him talking. Do you prefer this? Do you like this? Most of my videos that I produce are just me talking into the camera because that's what I like to do. Now, obviously, Mark Manson has a way bigger budget and team and channel than I do. And so he has the ability and the resources to do that on every single video he produces with really cool graphics and insights and things like that. Um, and I feel like my videos have the same amount of maybe information packed in them. They just don't have all of the graphics mixed in. So what do you guys think? Do you like these type of videos? Do you want somewhere in between? Do you want just a straight talking video? What's sort of the vibe there? That's just a question for myself.
Analysis. And it's from this weird marriage of two completely disparate traditions that we get the genius of his insight. See, Becker was a bit of an iconoclast. He would dress up and do weird things in his lectures. He would teach anthropology in a philosophy class and psychology in an anthropology class, and he was just always going against the grain. He was highly prolific, writing half a dozen books by the time he was 30. But then he got a terminal cancer diagnosis. And while laying on his deathbed, he wrote his reflections in the summation of everything that he had learned in his short life. The result was a book called The Denial of Death. And in it, Becker argued that everything meaningful and valuable in life is determined by the chance it has to remain valuable after we have died. In other words, spending our time well means spending time in ways that accumulate value even after you're dead. Becker argued that we all create our own immortality projects, essentially representations of ourselves, or more accurately, our egos, that will persist and last long after we're gone. It could be our name on the side of a building or a spine of a book. It could be a large, loving family or contributions to a community. There's an old proverb that says that each person dies twice, their physical death and then the death when the last person forgets who they are. Becker would argue that everything meaningful we do in life is to prolong that second death as long as humanly possible. Therefore, a valuable life.
Yeah, I mean, how do we do that? There's an interesting conversation between Joe Rogan and John Cena that happened recently. Now, if you don't know who John Cena is, John Cena, in my opinion, is the greatest WWE superstar of all time, the greatest sports entertainer of all time. And he actually retired on December 13th from professional wrestling after a year-long farewell tour. And he goes on Joe Rogan and he says, on December 13th, I'm going to retire. That's going to be my last match ever. And 3 weeks later, no one is going to be talking about me anymore. And is that true? Does that happen when we die? How long do people actually remember us when we die? Now, I hope to have a family. I do have a family right now. I have one son. Hopefully, I have another kid. And that legacy continues on and on and on. And that's maybe how I'm remembered with a large family. I also have a massive transformative purpose to end mental suffering. So hopefully, I can move the needle forward on that. And maybe I'm remembered for that one generation later. But most of the time, excuse my spitting, most of the time, people are going to forget about us very soon after we stop doing the thing and very soon after we die, because life moves on quickly. Things get more content gets generated, more people come into life, like other people's priorities become more important than you passing away or whatever the case may be. And I always go back to the John Cena thing. It's like John Cena is one of the most famous people and professional wrestlers to ever live, and he claims that 3 weeks after he's done, no one in WWE or all the WWE fans are just going to forget about him. Now, is that totally accurate? No, because I'm still talking about him almost 5 weeks later, and so are a lot of people on the internet. But it goes to show you that Yes, at some point after you die, people are going to forget about you. So might as well use that as motivation or fuel to do things in this life that are worth your time. That no matter what, who cares if it's cringe or weird or lame? It doesn't matter. People are going to forget about it anyway. So might as well do the thing you love to do no matter what. And so I think that's really important to understand about time and really people forgetting about us no matter what kind of legacy we actually leave. I mean, Alex Harmozy talks about this all the time, all the time. And I think Mark Manson is alluding to that here now with this video.
Or that is time that feels valuable, is spent on things that have the potential to transcend you after you die. This is paradoxical and counterintuitive, but also incredibly profound and important. It's why family and relationships feel so valuable to us. It's why serving some greater cause or purpose feels important. And it's why grinding your way to a 20,000 rating in Counter-Strike feels, well, kind of empty. Even if you do achieve it. You can't take your Counter-Strike rating with you when you're gone, but all those other things, you continue to live on in some form or another. And this brings us to the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. See, here's the thing. It's hard to think your way out of behavior patterns alone, like trying to perform surgery matters. Now, through an specific calls or get a new therapist of your finite pressure off your firstly, the most valuable experience.
Also, I can't stand that. What's the point of having that in there? Like he's talking about, he's talking about in the video, living a life well spent, but he'll take a bit of money for a sponsor that doesn't really add any value to the video right in the middle of the video when he's talking about very important things that mean something to us. And so I don't know, man, that always seems odd to me, especially with people like Mark Manson who have a ton of money. He has one of the most highest selling books of all time, the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's like, what's the point of that? Just do the video uninterrupted. You're going to make money off YouTube and all this type of stuff. What's the fucking point? I think it ruins kind of the vibe of the video. But also maybe that's me just being jealous of the success of his channel and things of that nature. So I don't know. Maybe it's me just projecting some insecurities. And that could potentially be the case for sure. But also, I'd made a decision on my podcast and on my channel that I'm not going to have any of those. Now, maybe I'll change my tune when someone offers me $60 million. But as of right now, it's self-funded. My podcast is self-funded through my own businesses. And that's the only things I promote are my own businesses, not any like VPN or gold or any bullshit like that. And now I'm just going on a rant. But it just seems to me it takes away from the actual video as a viewer like I am, right now to Mark Manson stuff. But anyways, let's continue.
Experiences that you can invest your time in are the experiences that help you transcend yourself. As Pablo Picasso once said, the purpose of life is to find your gift, but the meaning of life is to give it away. We're all going to die one day, every single one of us. But many of our lives will live on in ways beyond ourselves, in our friends, family, inventions, innovations, works of art. And it's no coincidence that the experiences that strike us as the most meaningful are also the ones that are most likely to outlive us. And here's the beautiful thing. Those valuable experiences tend to make all other experiences feel more valuable. Investing in your health isn't simply a valuable experience in that moment. It's an experience that makes all of your other experiences across your life also more valuable.
Investing in your health has the greatest ROI of all time. The greatest ROI of all time is investing in your health, of eating well, moving well, sleeping well, and thinking well. That is the greatest investment you can make if you're starting to take care of your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, whatever it is. You got to start with the basics, the fundamentals, which is eating well, moving well, sleeping well, and thinking well. And once you do that, you have the foundation, right? I talked about energy, work, and love. Energy is that right there, taking care of you, the vessel you have, the one body, the one soul, the one mind that you have. How can we take care of that in the most prolific and profound way so that all other aspects we can give our best energy and best effort to? Like that's the juice. That's where you want to squeeze the most out of life, is right there.
The same can be said about relationships. The same can be said about education and knowledge. Money comes and goes. Status comes and goes. Dopamine definitely comes and goes. But there are things that you can invest in today that will stay with you not only across your lifetime, but some will even transcend your lifetime. And because valuable experiences improve the value of all other experiences, valuable experiences have an inherent compounding nature to them. They're like a philosophical retirement account. For example, your health compounds. The healthier you get today, the easier it will be to become even healthier tomorrow. The more time you spend with someone today, the more valuable and meaningful spending time with them in the future becomes.
I mentioned this on almost every single episode and stream that I do, but Harvard did a really robust 85-year study on happiness. And to really simplify the studies down, they found that two things are most important to live the good life. And those are great health and great relationships. If you don't have great health, you don't have anything. So let's really, really try and take care of that outside of, right, obviously the uncontrollable circumstances that might, come upon us, cancer, things of that nature. But let's do the best we can with what is in our control in terms of our health. Okay, so great health, and that leads to great relationships. And those two things are most important if you want to live the good life. And then on top of that, potentially, right, is like your purpose, right, or passions that you pursue. But those come from great health and great relationships and going out into the world and experiencing things and then understanding where sort of like the intersection of our passion and our curiosity is, where those meet in the middle potentially could be our purpose or what we find meaningful or what we really want to spend our time doing. But if we want to live the best life possible, it's great health and great relationships. That is time well spent.
Skills compound over time. The more you learn and understand about something, the more valuable investing more time in that skill can become over time. Now, let's think about things that are largely a waste of time. Things like, I don't know, worrying constantly, bullshit drama with people you don't really care about, empty distractions, trying to impress other people, cheap dopamine. What do all of these things have in common? That's right, they don't compound. In fact, they do the opposite of compounding. The more you indulge them, the less valuable they become. For example, an hour of playing a video game can be a ton of fun. The second hour is cool. The third is starting to become a little bit of a problem. You should probably get up off the couch and touch grass or something. But hours 12, 13, and 14, I mean, let me speak from experience here. That's where the self-hatred is setting in. That's where you're probably a neckbeard in your mom's basement at 4 a.m. and you secretly just want to crawl in a hole and die. It's pure degeneracy. Or think about status games.
I mean, the argument can be made now that that's not degeneracy because it could make you a ton of money on social or on Twitch or on playing esports. But I obviously understand his point and I agree with his point. But some people would argue that. And he mentioned some of those things that don't compound over time, like worrying constantly. I mean, all of those things that he mentioned, of course, are accurate. But worrying constantly is part of the human condition. And so to sort of let go of that, we have to have something else to focus on, something that's larger than ourselves, something that's serving other people, something that gets us out of our own head. If we're always constantly thinking about me, then we're worrying about what other people think about me. And then it sort of debilitates us from even getting up and going and doing anything. And so we do want to think about how can we be of service to the world, right? How can we become the best version of ourselves in service to the world that gets us out of our own way and into action? And there is obviously something to be said about just doing things that you enjoy, right? If you want to play an hour or two of video games because you enjoy it, do it. But know that that's for the most part not going to be very fruitful for your life, but it could be very fun and entertaining. And also you could meet some friends on there. So there could be some benefit to it. But I, again, understand Mark's point, and he's probably right in a general sense.
You buy a fancy watch to impress the bros at work. You buy it, they're impressed, but then the next day, well, they're not so impressed. In fact, they don't really fucking care what your watch is anymore. So you feel a need to impress them again. So you buy some douche canoe shoes. And it turns out that those douche canoe shoes were last season's fashion. So now you feel like a real doofus. You wasted a bunch of money on a bunch of people who weren't even really thinking about you. So to drown your sorrows, you go play video games in your mom's basement until 4 a.m. This is the sort of anti-compounding that is true of pretty much anything that's bad for you. The more you party, the less valuable the next parties get. The more alcohol you drink, the worse the next drink for you is. The more you jerk off the hopscotch fetish porn, the more, well, you get the point. These non-valuable experiences also suck because they do not transcend your life. Even the best party in the world is not going to matter when you're 80 and on your deathbed. The fact that you beat Elden Ring in a single sitting won't either.
I don't know, man. The party is an interesting one, right? It's like a great fucking party that you have a great time with your boys at or your friends with when you're young. Those memories kind of do last forever. So again, I understand his point, and I don't want anyone to misconstrue his point and think that we only have to do things that have compounding interest over time. We have to be super productive all the time. No, there is something to be said about having memories and experiences. And he's also talking about that. That could be time well spent. We have a great night out with the boys or whatever the case may be. And that's not something you should be doing all the time for the rest of your life. Of course not. There's a season in your life for everything that do create long lasting memories. But really, ultimately, when we gain that experience and that wisdom, we do want to focus on the things that have the greatest ROI on living a meaningful and fulfilling and service driven life. I think that is most important.
Nobody's going to remember what car you drove or what shoes you wore, or what your credit rating was, or how many LinkedIn followers you had. But here's the worst part about these anti-compounding behaviors. Because they become less valuable the more you do them, you will feel like you will inevitably need to do them even more to get the same high and thrill that you had the first time. Hello, addiction, my old friend. I ran into this in my 20s quite a bit. I decided to become a digital nomad. And in 2009, I packed up my laptop, a small suitcase, and I set out for Argentina for a life of partying, girls, Fernet y Coca, boliches, more parties, and more girls. And what ensued was a 2-year stretch where I visited over 50 countries, having some of the most fun experiences of my life. Now, in my young brain, this felt incredibly meaningful. After all, I was experiencing incredible novelty, insane peak experiences, incredible stories that my friends back home listened to and envy. But the problem was these experiences didn't compound. With each successive party, I needed an even bigger party to feel the same excitement and energy. And with each new country, each culture seemed more drab and repetitive than the last. With each new peak experience, it became even harder to achieve the next peak experience. Andrew Huberman has a great definition of addiction. He said that it's a narrowing of what brings you joy.
Addiction is a progressive narrowing of what brings us joy. Andrew Huberman. Cool.
And anti-compounding behaviors are just that, a slow, painful narrowing of what brings us joy. Each time you indulge, they narrow your view of what can make you happy even further. Whereas the most valuable uses of your time, working out, sleeping well, hanging out with your best friend, these will widen your view of what can make you happy. They open the possibilities of life in ways that you never thought was possible. Now, here's the most interesting thing. Kind of the sick irony of all this is that to really understand the value of something in your life, you need to think about your death more often. Because the more you think about your death, the more clear it is what is actually valuable in your life and what is a waste of time. And the more urgent.
I mean, there's an exercise that everyone talks about, obviously, that's really important is, flash forward or fast forward to the end of your life. You're about to take your very last breath. How do you want to feel? Right? Chris Williamson asks a question every year in his yearly review. He says, what would you do this year that would make your 85-year-old self miserable? You have to ask those questions. Zoom out to your eulogy. What do you want the person giving your eulogy to say at your funeral? Do you want them to talk about all the watches and cars and fancy parties that you went to, or you want to talk about the values that you represented, the impact that you made, the legacy that you left, the time well spent? Right? Those are the things that are going to be most important. And again, those really can be only learned through our own experience. So you can hear me talk, or you can hear Mark talk, and like these things are actually true and real. But again, you have to go through your own experiences. You have to go through your own seasons of life to figure out, okay, yes, this is no longer important. I'm not driven by these external, extrinsic metrics anymore. I'm driven by these intrinsic things, doing what I love to do, spending quality time, nurturing my relationships, taking care of my health, being the best at getting better when it comes to my job or my profession. Those things are valuable. And so we do need to think about death. Death is important. Death is coming for us all. And so zoom right now to the end of your life. You're about to take your very last breath. What do you want it to think? Do you want all these regrets to be on the table, or you want to be like, I'm about to take my very last breath. Fuck yeah. I gave this life everything I fucking had. That's beautiful. And then boom. And then at your eulogy, that's what people talk about. They talk about your first principles and the values that you showed up with and how you made that person feel, and that you were a great friend and you showed up when you needed to, and you were accountable and you held yourself responsible. Those things. And you were a great dad or a great husband or a great mom, right? Or a great business partner. And you built this great product that helped many people, right? Or you put content out in the world that made people smile or understand themselves a little bit better, or whatever the case may be, like whatever your vibe is. Like that's what you're going to think about. So again, zoom to the end of your life. Picture that. Then go back to right here, right now, and think about what are the small actions and decisions and choices I can make that are going to compound over time, that are going to make me feel like I was doing the right thing at the end of this year, at the end of 5 years, at the end of my life, when I'm 85, when I'm talking to my grandkids about what actually makes us fulfilled and happy and what leads to more happiness. It's always going to be the journey and the struggle that comes with the journey. And so please, please, please actually think about that. It's very important.
See, you then
Like, don't leave it up to chance. Like, don't leave it up to chance. If you leave it up to chance and just let life take you where the wind blows, you're not going to be going in the direction that you know is ultimately most aligned with you and your sort of idiosyncrasies, right? Think about that. Really reflect on that. I have a full, like, 35-minute episode on reflection, on the right questions to ask yourself. And then I did a full episode on goal setting or target setting, and the questions you want to ask yourself and the clarity that you can get. And really, what is our massive transformative purpose? How can we do that in pursuit of our passions and our curiosities? And where do those things intersect? And what's aligned with me? And how can I head in the right direction? How can I pick the right targets? What are the daily actions I can take? All of these things matter. It just takes a little bit of work and a little bit of diligence to actually figure it out. Because if you don't, you're just going to be taken over by life, and other people are going to be determining the things that are important to you, and other people are going to be determining the direction of your life. And you just don't want that. You're going to wake up at 50 years old and be like, what the fuck just happened? So do something about it right now, because your energy is finite and really your time is finite. That's what Mark is speaking about here when he talks about death and all these things we've watched in this 14-minute video that I've made almost 30 minutes long, because that's the whole point, I guess. But here we go.
feel to spend on what's valuable. But thinking about death is fucking scary. It's uncomfortable. It's not fun. Nobody really wants to think about their own death, especially because thinking about it forces us to reckon with all of the shit decisions we've made throughout our lives. Therefore, most of us avoid thinking about it, which is ironically kind of the point of all the ways we waste our time. See, the point of distracting ourselves, the point of numbing ourselves, the point of setting off on these crazy pursuits that are just a waste of time, the whole point is to actually help us forget our own mortality. See, when you're actually spending time in an incredibly valuable way, when you're spending time with your family and young kids, or you're doing something incredibly meaningful and impactful at work, you become acutely aware of how transitory that moment is, how that moment might not ever exist again. Hell, there might not be many moments like this that ever exist again. And that's fucking scary. That's terrifying. Paradoxically,
It's really scary. Like, I am the father right now of a almost 4-month-old son, and he will never be this way again, ever. And so I heard an insight, I think it was from Sakil Bloom, about becoming a parent. And he said, you know, the days are long, but the years are short. And of course, there have been long days with my son where he cries and we don't get any sleep and yada, yada, yada. Who gives a fuck? Like, and I catch myself with my wife saying, man, I can't wait till he does this. And I can't wait till he does this. And I can't wait till he walks. And I can't wait till we can do like rough and tumble play. And I can't wait for all this. And it's like, well, what about right now? What about this moment of life he's in? What stage of life he's in right now? I'm never going to get this again, ever. And yeah, I might have another kid, which will be amazing, but it'll never be my first kid doing the first time experience with this thing. And so I try to remind myself of that all the time. Like, stop thinking about what he's about to do or when he's about to walk or eat real food or whatever the case may be. Think about this right here, that this is so precious and perfect. And I think we can do that in all of our lives, but we need that constant reminder to be here right now in this very moment, because this moment is all we have. And all great things are expressed in the present moment. I learned that from playing sports. I'm definitely getting that lesson reinforced as being a father. Like, this is it, this moment right here. And maybe you're spending it watching this stream, but hopefully what you do after this is that you take these lessons and you actually apply them to your life in action. Because there's a 3-step approach that I use for almost anything if you want to change anything in your life. It's awareness, acceptance, action. So we got to become aware of this thing. We're not spending our time right. We're not doing the thing right. We're not living in alignment with what we know is truly what we're supposed to do, or we don't even know. So we become aware of that. And we accept the fact that this is our reality, that we have wasted time, or we don't have a lot of time left, or we're worrying constantly about what other people think, or we have this fear, that fear. We accept that fact. We become aware, we accept it, and then we move into action. And we talked about a lot of principles here that Mark talked about, and I tried to reinforce those principles with my own sort of flavor on it. And then we got to get into action. That's the only thing that's going to move the needle forward. So you can watch a bunch of videos and streams and podcasts and think about it, and that's great. And you have enough information. Now you have to get into action, awareness, acceptance, action. So let's finish this video. I think here about 1 minute left.
It's the best moments in our lives that make us most aware of how transitory and temporal our lives are. Yet it's when we're wasting time that our minds are completely numb and distracted to any of the reality of our meager existence. The reality is that this and every moment is unique and scarce and precious. To move away from addictive behaviors towards enhancing behaviors, we must think about how limited we are. We must think about our life as a finite resource.
That's a good sort of thing he said, how we move away from addictive behaviors and move towards enhancing behaviors. That's a good, I think, distinction there, because a lot of us have addicting behaviors. I got one in my lip right now that you see me, spitting all the time. It's certainly an addictive behavior, but that's not really what he's talking about here. He's talking about some of the dopamine hits, the cheap dopamine hits that we can move away from, that allow us to move over to things that are more meaningful and gratifying and actually make our life better. Those are the enhancing behaviors that Mark is talking about.
Something to be managed and leveraged, not to be wasted or thrown away. And I would argue that this is not a productivity issue or a lifestyle issue or an optimization issue. It's a moral issue. You and I were blessed with perhaps the most rare and unique gift in the known universe: consciousness, the ability to reason and plan and think and change the course of history. To our knowledge, this intelligence, this qualia, is.
And another way to put that is like, humans are born with agency, because consciousness is a very complicated subject, very complicated. I don't really fully understand it, but I can simplify it down in knowing that humans have agency. We have agency over our lives. We have agency over our decisions. We're in more control of than we think, right? Because so many unpredictable things happen in our life, uncontrollable events, things that we don't ask for, unchosen suffering, as David Goggin calls it, but we do have control over our agency, which means we have control over our attitude, our effort, how we respond. But really, that's what makes humans so cool and unique, is that we have this agency to take control of our life and head in the right direction we want to. And we can pivot and we can change pathways and we can change goals and change targets, because we have that sense of agency about us, that our future can be better than our present, and we have the power to make it happen. That's really fucking cool.
Not experienced by anything or anyone else in existence. And the miracle of this consciousness is that it can engage in activities and pursuits that enhance itself, that make it even more capable, more powerful, and more clear. In fact, this consciousness can grow so powerful and influential that remnants of it can echo and reverberate throughout existence long after its physical form is gone. This precious gift, this most scarcest of resources, is only available to you for a short amount of time. 80 years, in fact, but of those 80 years, only about 15 of them are left up to your own decisions and devices. So are you going to use it well? I would argue that you have a moral duty to, a responsibility to use it well, not just for yourself, but for the rest of us.
Rock on. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I mean, we're about to watch a Dr. Jordan Peterson video, and he says all the time, Dr. Jordan Peterson says all the time, that you have a moral obligation. A moral obligation. I think that's right. You have a moral obligation to become the best version of yourself in greatest service to the world. You have a moral obligation, because the world needs you here, not a sort of a shape-shifting sort of pretend version of you that you put on to appease other people, like the real, authentic version of you. The world needs that. The world needs you here, because there will never be another you. You are the most unique thing that's ever existed. And we need all that you have to offer: your mistakes, your successes, your wins, your losses, everything. The world needs you here, because that creates the fabric of the universe. I mean, that's such a unbelievable, powerful gift. I mean, to actually be born is a fucking miracle. I've seen it happen 4 months ago. My wife gave birth to a human being. It's an absolute miracle that we are here now to be able to do this fucking thing. And so let's take advantage of it. Let's take advantage of every opportunity we get by understanding that we will die and everyone we love will die. So might as well do what we can to live the most fulfilled, meaningful, and service-driven life we possibly can. Wow, isn't that fucking cool, right? So that was video number 1 from Mark Manson. Now let's get into the second video we have here with Dr. Jordan Peterson. Share. This is a conversation that he had with Chris Williamson on the Modern Wisdom podcast. And yeah, so let's jump into this conversation right here. Another 9-minute video.
You said that a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. How should people become more dangerous?
Oh, becoming more articulate is definitely, I would say, that's the primary array of weapons.
I also think that anytime that Dr. Jordan Peterson or anyone really says the word dangerous, people construe that as like being violent, because that word dangerous and violent kind of go hand in hand. And that's just not what Dr. Jordan Peterson is talking about. Yes, you need to have the capacity for violence to be able to potentially protect the ones that you love, but you have it under voluntary control is the most important thing. And Dr. Jordan Peterson, immediately within the first 2 seconds of answering that question, says to be able to articulate. What does that mean? To be able to communicate your ideas, your thoughts, your needs, your wants. All of that stuff is built through being able to articulate. Now, the only reason I'm sort of semi good at articulating things is because I've spent so much time behind a microphone. I've done 447 podcast episodes. Episode 447 of my podcast will be released tomorrow. And the only reason I'm semi-decent, not good enough, still stumble over my words all the time and don't articulate exactly what I'm trying to say. But for the most part, I've gotten better because I spent so much time under tension being able to communicate. And that's helped me in my relationship with my wife. And hopefully that'll help me be able to articulate and communicate with my son and all that type of stuff. And I think that is what makes someone a sort of a dangerous competitor in the world. Not dangerous, again, in the sense of violence, but dangerous in the sense to advocate for yourself or communicate what you need or articulate your ideas that could be powerful, that could change lives. Like, these things are extremely cool and extremely powerful.
So, physical prowess is something, and it's not nothing, that physical confidence that comes along with that as well. But the same thing replicated at the level of the ability to communicate and to think, that's a way broader field of battle and opportunity. So this is one thing that isn't taught well, especially to boys. It's more important to teach it to boys, I would say, because they're more skeptical of the educational enterprise in generally speaking, partly because they're less obedient, partly because they're less agreeable. That's particularly true for disagreeable boys. And agreeable boys get higher grades independent of their IQ and their academic achievement, because they're easier to deal with. So what do you tell disagreeable boys? There's nothing that makes you more formidable than verbal competence, than being able to articulate, be able to think, to marshal your arguments, right? Some battlefield metaphor. Get everything in order. Get all your information straight, to marshal your forces. And so, that's part of the reason that rap artists are so popular, especially among disaffected young men, black and white alike, because they're unbelievably articulate. Like, they have this incredible verbal prowess. It's unbelievably.
Like Dr. Jordan Peterson mentioned this a little bit, but he mentioned physical prowess. And before he continues on with be able to articulate your ideas and have sort of the verbal prowess, as he's saying, if you're a young man watching this right now, like, get in the gym. The gym absolutely changed my life. And for all young men who might be struggling with direction or discipline or motivation or things they want to do in their life, start with the gym. Start getting physically strong and physically capable. And there are many things that can come from that. In the gym, you can learn discipline and hard work and effort. You can also learn how to make friends and ask for help from the other big guy in the gym, from the guy who goes to the gym all the time, from the guy who's been working out for 20 years, from maybe the conversation you have with the lady at the front desk, or whatever the case may be. There's so many things that come from the gym rather than you just getting jacked. And also, that's a cool thing, because now you feel physically competent and physically confident, which could lead to confidence in other areas of you developing yourself in a broader range of things. And so if you don't know what place to start, if you are a young man, start with the gym, start with your body, and then build from there. Like, if you want to ask for help in the gym, you have to be able to communicate and talk and go up to someone And who knows what they're going to say? Maybe this guy's busy, or maybe he's having a bad day, or maybe he brushes you off and you want to try again. Like, being able to handle rejection is also a huge, huge thing when it comes to developing yourself as a young man. And you, again, can learn all of that in the gym. And then over time, you're like, oh, wow, I got stronger and bigger and all these things happen. Okay, how can I apply these same principles to other areas of my life, to my education, to my schoolwork, to my job, to my family, to my relationships? Okay, discipline and effort and responsibility and communication, all of these things add up to create a very dangerous individual, whether man, or woman, really.
Attractive, and it's associated with genuine artistic and redemptive activity, often focusing on something that's approximately the voice of the underclass, let's say, but a powerful voice, right? And it's interesting to see how many young white guys identify with that.
Was it Aldous Huxley that wrote Doors of Perception?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is kind of an equivalent of that, right? That you have a experience which many people struggle to articulate. You take the best of us, the one that has the most precise, most articulate, erudite language. You drop them in and you say, okay, show us what you've learned. This is the equivalent, but for just a different community, a different sort of life, that maybe you don't have the ability to describe what it feels like to live on a council estate in Manchester, or in, one of the neighborhoods of Brooklyn, or whatever it might be. And then this person can, and it feels like it's your voice.
Yeah, well, you still, if you're a young man, you still feel alienated from your place as rightful heir of the proper kingdom. I mean, that's an existential truism for everyone, particularly for every young man, because he is an outsider in many ways. He's young and juvenile and not very highly valued, and then is in some sense hurt by the inadequacies of the current king, the current culture, and is easily turned against it because of that. And that's the machinations of the evil uncle. That's the King Arthur story. That's the story of Horus and Osiris. It's an ancient story. It's the story of Sauron, and it's there all the time. And you see in rap music, in hip hop, all of that alienation being given an articulated voice in an artistic sense. And that's a good example of the power of verbal facility. And that's the route to, let's say, marketing education to young men. It's like, you want to take your rightful place in the kingdom? It's like, get your tongue straight, man. Get it under control in the highest possible sense. We went to a comedy club, Tammy and I, in New York, the Comedy Cellar. It's a great comedy club. And the last comic was an English guy, and he was not particularly physically prepossessing, and he made a lot of jokes about that, and it was quite funny. And then he divided the audience into 5 sections, and he asked each section to toss up a topic, just to yell out a topic. And they were like random topics, like the Kennedy assassination and electric lighting before 1890. Those were 2 of the topics, and the other 3 were just as diverse. And then he put on some beats, and he did about an 8-minute rap with every verse rhymed, and he tied the whole thing together at the end and ended at the end of the music, all spontaneously. It was unbelievable. And that's Logos, man. That's
fucking just incredibly, unbelievably skilled. Most people will never be able to do that, but most people can articulate in sort of the normal sense. Like Chris Williamson, the guy doing this podcast, has an idea that everyone should do a podcast. And his idea is that you and a friend should get together every week, and you should put your phone down on the table, face down, press record, and just have a conversation about one topic that week, and just go back and forth. And then go back and listen to the recording, not to post it anywhere, but to see how many times you said or this, or you stumbled over your words, or where can you be more clear on this topic, and how can you be more precise here? Where do you need to listen a little bit more? How come you just responded and not listened? And how can you need to actually listen to respond? And where can you be more articulate? Like, it just comes with practice. You're not just going to get good at articulating your values, or articulating your needs, or articulating your ideas if you don't practice and have time under tension. Spitting in a bottle. And so I love the idea that Chris Williamson shares, like, have a friend every week, pick one topic every week. You have 6 or so days to maybe research that topic, come up with some ideas that you want to talk about, put your phone face down, hit record, and talk for 30 minutes uninterrupted. Whether it's at a coffee shop or at your house or whatever the case may be, this gives you the arena, the sort of the non-consequential arena to be able to understand if you can be precise with your language. And then how can that be applied to your life? How can that be applied to your sales job, or the conversation you have with your wife, or the conversation you want to have with a potential girl you're trying to talk to at the bar? Like, you just become more precise with your language because you've had practice with it, because you've had time under tension to be able to understand the ideas you want to portray, your cadence, how many times you say or like or this. Like, those are normal things, but they don't get better just by whatever. They get better through practice, just like anything else, just like sports or writing or your job, or being a husband or a father. You get better at speaking and doing anything by doing the thing over and over and over again. And that's really, really important.
It's the redemptive power of the logos right there, the magic word, the sacred word. It's just manifesting itself on stage.
There's something
very impressive.
Something about that does feel dangerous as well. Not in a I need to be concerned and this should be contaminated and walled off, but in a way that you think that person has so much competence that it's flowing out of them, and you almost feel competent by being around them.
So but you certainly feel competent by appreciating it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it speaks to the part of you that is capable of appreciating such things. You think, wow, that's really something. That's an amazing display. That's an amazing thing to see. Amazing, right? A very interesting word, amazing. And you're trapped by the charisma of that. And that charisma, that's not nothing. That's a signal of something redemptive occurring. That accounts for.
With AI,
you can create any character you want in seconds.
This used to require huge Hollywood
Virtually all.
I mean, that's probably why, some of the top podcasts in the whole world are from comedians, quote unquote comedians, because they have the ability to be funny and be entertaining, but also articulate ideas, but also listen, also keep the conversation going. Now, I think some of these podcasters who are comedians have delved into subjects that they know nothing about, and they're a bit over their head because they feel like they have to comment on something that might be going on in the world because they have such a big platform. And maybe they do have a responsibility, but they also have a responsibility to have intelligent conversations where they vet the guests and they're not just spewing out information that could be seen by millions that's complete garbage. But that maybe be a subject and a conversation for another time. But on this sort of subject of being very dangerous and articulate with your words, in a competent sense, not in a violent sense, in a competent sense, like, comedians are really good at that because they are able to sort of juggle many plates of being funny and entertaining, but also getting serious and real because they've been through some stuff. They've been on the road. They've, usually done shows in front of one person or two people or 100 people. And so they have a bunch of different experiences that they can relate life to and understand the struggle of trying to build anything. And so, again, that's why, a lot of the great podcasters are comedians. And I think because they're very skilled with the way they can articulate certain things while also being extremely entertaining at the same time.
All of the attraction of hip hop and rap is the articulated voice of the struggling but worthy underclass. I suppose that's a good way of putting it. But those who are alienated from their rightful place. And so that verbal prowess is one of the ways they struggle up towards the light and that's a good example of that, of having that danger under control, because it's a dark genre in many ways, right? There's a real undercurrent and air of violence that surrounds that and its culture, like the punk movement in the UK back in the late 70s. Same sort of thing, but that capacity to express that in a poetic manner, in a compelling manner. Johnny Rotten was great at that. He was so intense. He worked with PIL afterwards, Public Image Limited. Is that it? Public Image? I think so. He has a song called Rise, which I used to show my clients all the time when I was starting assertiveness training with them. I'd put on Johnny Rotten's Rise, and the line in there is anger is an energy, and he's got these unbelievably intense eyes.
Anger is an energy.
You bet. And John Lydon, man, he could channel that like almost no one I've ever seen. he'd get that anger built up inside him.
Speaking of anger, yeah, anger is absolutely an energy. And I had this woman on my podcast recently called Davina, and she created these 5 anger archetypes. Because usually we're very scared of anger because a lot of harmful things can happen when we get angry. And usually we try to quote unquote calm ourselves down when we get angry. And usually that doesn't work because we don't understand the root of the problem. And so the root of the problem is one of these 5 archetypes, which I can't remember all 5 archetypes, but do check out the podcast episode that I did with Davina. It's on all my platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all that good stuff. Just search Something for Everybody or my name and it'll come up, or search Davina and Aaron. But she deeply explains what those anger archetypes are and how we can get the root of those archetypes and why we feel that anger, because it's attacking one of these archetypes, and then we can actually solve the anger rather than just telling ourselves, hey, calm down, it's fine, calm down, relax, which doesn't work because there's no root solution to the anger. And so anger then becomes an energy, and it can become harmful in a way if we don't actually deal with the root of it all, which I just talked about there from the archetypes. But so just wanted to mention that because Dr. Jordan Peterson just mentioned anger, so that popped up in my brain from a most recent episode of my podcast.
And then it was completely under control, and he expressed it in his music, and he's absolutely captivating, unbelievably charismatic. And I really liked his music, that raw anger in the music. But it was in the bloody music, wasn't it? It wasn't some random riot, He transmuted that into something. You can argue about the poetic merits of punk rock, although I don't think you should. I mean, I Did It My Way, Sid Vicious's version of I Did It My Way. My God, that's a work of genius. That it's so brilliantly satirical.
What someone's doing is they're refining it, they're distilling it down, and then they're directing it. So I went to a powerlifting competition a couple of years ago. There was this one guy there lifting. He holds a bunch of records in the squat, and he's a normal working class guy from a normal working class town on the outskirts of Newcastle. And watching that man warm up is something else. He's got a sacred playlist. He never listens to the songs apart from when he's about to step on to the lifting platform. He's got these headphones on, and he's just walking up and down in the same way that you'd see a bull ready to go out, ready to go and chase something. And he steps out on stage, and the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. You're watching this guy channel
Rage,
fury.
That's the god of war. That's Mars. Yeah, he's in touch with that.
Unbelievable.
And words, man. You go to war with words. And you think that's what young men should be taught. There we go.
Bit of fury. What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Dr. Jordan Peterson. Appreciate you. Let's see. But like that ending part there sort of summarizes like the guy going on the squat rack, right? He is becoming dangerous in that moment. So he can go squat a zillion pounds, but he's becoming dangerous, but he's having under voluntary control. And so again, a lot of people hear that you need to become the most dangerous man you can possibly become, and they forget the second part, which is under voluntary control. And dangerous to me in this context is kind of like a synonym for competence. Become extremely competent in many different domains, whether that's with your physical body, whether that's with what Dr. Jordan Peterson was talking about, with able to articulate words and be very precise with the things that are coming out of your mouth. Like that is how you actually become a dangerous, competent individual in the world, where people actually respect you for your values and your insights because you can share them on a deep and profound level. And then, of course, I mentioned, getting in the gym, especially for young men. And so being able to also build up a callus for rejection is really, really important for any person in the world, because you're going to get rejected. People are going to shut down your ideas. They're going to shut down you asking someone out or asking for a coffee date or they're going to shut down your job application or offer, or whatever the case may be. You're going to get rejected in life. It is going to happen. And so how can we build up a callus for that? We have to try and fall down and get back up and fall down and get back up and fall 7 and rise 8. That's the beauty of the world we live in. Again, with Mark Manson, we talked about time and agency, and like that's part of it. Like building a fulfilling life takes a large amounts of effort and large amounts of fuck ups and falling down and mistakes, and like learning from those and reflecting on them, and then using that as fuel for your growth so you can actually become the best version of yourself in greatest service to the world. And it does start with this idea of being able to articulate your ideas in a precise, concise, and articulate manner where people understand them and they take you seriously. And then, of course, in the previous video, we also talked about great health. And that's the cornerstone of everything. Right now, Dr. Jordan Peterson is very sick, apparently. So obviously my prayers and my heart goes out to him. And maybe that, I don't know what happened to him, but if we have full control over the certain things in our life, which is like eating well, moving well, sleeping well, and thinking well, let's really, really dial in on those. So again, we can become the most dangerous, competent person in the world and have it under voluntary control. So those are the two videos that I'm reacting to tonight on this stream. Thought they were really good. I'm glad I got to learn from them in real time and sort of rewatch that video from Dr. Jordan Peterson and Chris Williamson. But again, if you're new to my stream, thank you for joining. Please follow me or subscribe on whatever platform you're viewing this on. And most importantly, check out my podcast, which is called Something for Everybody. It's on all major podcast platforms. And would love to see you back on another stream. And if you want to hear directly from me or you want merch updates or podcast updates, please text my number at 201-534-3681. And I hope you take good care of yourselves and good care of others. And I'll see you next time